Welcome to the Leader More podcast. Our motive is to pass on what we've found helpful over the years through leading teams, running operations, and dealing with life's challenges. We hope you enjoy. Hi, I'm Daniel from High Performance Leaders. Hemi has worked his way from apprentice electrician to general manager. We talk about the challenges of moving from being on the tools into leadership, earning the respect of former workmates, managing people and business performance, balancing work with a young family, and why boxing has become an important outlet for his physical and mental well-being. Let's get into the episode. Big welcome, Hemi.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good to see you, man.
Likewise.
We've known each other for a long time.
Very long time, mate.
I think 16 you were when you were playing footy, and
Yep.
I was coaching, and
Yeah.
I think
Great days.
I think I unfortunately had to cut you at one point.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I'm sorry, mate.
No, that's all right. It's all right. Well, I don't hold grudges. I think they were for the best of the team anyway at the time. So
Yeah, we were just sort of saying, like, you started off as an apprentice 12 years ago.
correct.
Apprentice, electrician, moved
Yep.
into trades,
Yep.
and then operations manager, and now recently general manager, mate,
Yeah.
over 12
dog.
years.
The big dog, really.
Are you telling all the boys that at work, or?
Nah. I try to keep it pretty humble when I'm at work, but
I'm sure you do.
I do keep them in line if I have to.
Yeah. It's good. So, apprentice electrician, why electrical work? Is that?
To be honest, really, I guess it's something that's always had my attention from a young age. I always liked playing around with electronics, and I always had a fascination for electrical components. I don't know where I got it. My grandfather is actually he's an electrician back in New Zealand, so I guess that's probably where I get it from. But I've always had an interest in electricity. Yeah, and it's
So were
great.
you one of these kids like pulling apart bloody, like remote control cars,
Correct, yeah,
and seeing how
yeah.
they work and breaking them?
Pulling
and-
toys apart and trying to put them back together, and mucking around with the fucking electric fence at my grandparents' farm and stuff like that. So I don't know. I've always had a knack for electricity, and here I am.
Yeah, that's good. How did you find that going in and doing an apprenticeship? Was it
So originally, a lot of my friends are actually Sparkies, so it makes it, I guess, a little bit easy because the circle that you're surrounded by tends to be what you put yourself in as well. So a lot of my friends had already been in an electrical apprenticeship, well, first or second years, and they say, hey, ceiling fixing's maybe not doing it for you. Maybe you should think about doing another trade or do something that's a little bit less physical and maybe a little bit more mental, but in the long run it'll be a much better decision for you.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that I took that advice from some of my friends, because I'd probably still be hanging sheets to this day. And I take my hat off to carpenters and ceiling fixers, but it's just not something that I'd see myself doing long term.
I reckon your shoulder and back is probably pretty thankful as well.
Yeah. The old shoulders holding up sheets for bloody 6-7 hours a day.
So you've been in the one company throughout the whole time? Did your apprenticeship at the same place?
I've been at, I'd say, 3 major companies throughout my whole, from apprenticeship to where I am now in my role. Then the company I'm at now, Saros, is probably the longest company that I've been at, where I've gained a lot of my knowledge and success from as well. The previous 2 companies that I worked at were also very, very good companies. They're quite large companies now as well in terms of the electrical industry, but where I actually learned how to be a tradie and how to be an electrician is here at Saros.
And then you moved into operations management and leading people that you've worked alongside as well, right?
Yeah.
Pretty tough transition, or what?
I'd say, in 2 ways. Working at Saros a lot, it was, like I said, a lot of my friends were all working together, doing our apprenticeships together. And then obviously once we become tradesmen, I sort of, took that extra step into doing the 1%ers on, leading the crews and making sure jobs are being done at a high standard, high quality, but also at a fast pace, just trying to be that one step above everyone else, which I guess is what stood out. And
why you were
why
selected.
I was selected into moving into that operations role. Don't get me wrong, there's definitely tradies at my company that are probably better than me as an electrician and probably know more about electrical than me. But being able to have that trade knowledge and also that rapport with other people you work with, the respect and being able to also lead other groups as well. You know, it's not just been about being a good tradie or being a good admin or being a good manager. You need to be able to put all of those things into one, you know, and
Yeah, I imagine the level of respect that they would have for you would be very high.
Yeah.
In regards to, you know, like you've walked in their shoes, you know what you're talking about, you've proven yourself, you're one
Correct.
of them as such, right?
Correct.
But probably from your point of view, though, it would be tough, though, to, I suppose, essentially tell them what to do all the time. You know, like there's an element of that, whether you got to pull them up for, you know, something not being to what that needs to be, or, you know, like I imagine that sort of caused a few sort of, I don't know, sleepless nights for you.
And there's still days to this day where I think about it and I'm like, man, maybe I should have taken a different approach, or you know, a particular job that, you know, gives me restless sleep or something like that, you know. But yeah, just being able to put that on the back burner and you obviously think about what we do next rather than looking at the past and, you know, it's happened now. How can we rectify this, or what are our next procedures to take in order to make sure that our client is happy or that job is done properly, you know?
It's funny when we beat ourselves up on things, when we say, geez, what did I do it like that for, right?
Yeah,
But
definitely.
how good, though, like when you think about it, is that the fact that you're reflecting on it is the key point. If you weren't reflecting on it and you thought you were just perfect at everything, like, well, that could be a problem, you know?
A lot of the time I see my director, he's a close friend of mine now as well. He, the stress that he goes through, it really baffles me sometimes, you know, seeing how intelligent he is as a director, but also as a person in general. And you can clearly see the stress that he puts himself under and that he experiences. And now that I've moved into that role, you know, I get to see a bit of a taste of how that feels.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a lot different to being a tradie on site and you might have, you know, accidentally mucked up a PowerPoint, or you might have mounted a GPO wrong, or, you know, a light's a bit crooked or something like that. That sort of stress compared to the level of stress that you would deal with in an office surround is two totally different ballparks.
Yeah. Well, what did you think, mate, when you were asked to go into the ops management role? Like, did you think that, like this will be easy, you know, I'm in an office, you know, how hard can it be?
To be honest, I thought, I don't know, I guess I was a bit stubborn or arrogant that I just thought I'd walk all over it and it would be a walk in the park. That was obviously when I transitioned from a tradesman into an ops manager. And yeah, like I said, the stress level is just 10 to none. It's so much more, it's such a more intense version of stress than it is out on the tools. And just being able to handle that sort of stress. You would do a lot more labor intense work out on the field, but obviously the mental side of it is probably nowhere near as intense. Whereas in the office, you know, you're dealing with multiple crews, making sure that they're all doing their job correctly and nothing's going wrong and the client's happy and everything's up to standard and it's all being submitted all in, you know, alphabetical form to make sure it's all, you know, Mickey Mouse is. It's a different sort of stress and you don't even realize it until you actually hit that role, you know. So
Well, what did you think when you got into it? Were you like, oh, what have I got myself into here? Or
a bit of both. Like at the start, I was sort of like, whoa, a bit overwhelmed. Now I'm at the level where it's like I almost thrive off it. You know, it's like this is my niche. I'm used to being in this sort of surrounding. I like being thrown in deep water, and there's only one way you can go. You know, you either drown or you swim. So you gotta.
you're still breathing.
Yeah, that's right. So, there's definitely some times when I've gone home and I've just thought to myself, shit. You know, am I doing the right thing, or do I go back on the tool?
Well, what did you struggle with? Was it just the fact that your mind's always like you're always thinking about stuff?
Yeah,
is that
correct.
the thing?
So, I think what was most obvious for me was when I was coming home, a lot of my work would come home with me. So I'm just constantly thinking about work and what's happening tomorrow or what's happening the following week, and that's just also affecting, you know, my family time. And something that I've had to deal with and adapt to is, making sure that I can deal with problems at work, and then as soon as I get home, being able to switch between the two, you know, because I don't want to have a shit day at work and then come home and, you know, and then it relates with my family, you know. So that's something that doesn't sit well with me. I need to be able to switch off between the two, which I think I do quite well now. Sometimes, you know, I might have a shit day and I'll tell my partner, "Oh, you know, I've had a shocker of a day, you know." And sometimes we'll speak about it. Sometimes we won't. We'll just leave it, you know. I'll deal with it tomorrow. I don't really want to talk about it. It's probably just going to make me more upset. So, otherwise sometimes we should be like, "Oh, you know, what is it? What happened? You know, did the boys do this, or the boys did that, or a client did this?" But just being able to separate the two and make sure.
Yeah, well, and like that's the hard thing. You've got a 2-year-old now, and over the course of doing the ops management role and having a baby, you know, a fair bit of change going on in your family, you know, and you're doing your best to do a new role, which was in the same field, but very different type of role. Like you're doing computer stuff, you know, you're dealing with office staff, you're dealing with customers a lot more, you're dealing with overall performance, and like you said, juggling a whole heap of things to like. Then, you know, all that change over a couple of years, like it's a massive thing. And that's why I wanted to speak to you. Like it's such a change for people, and particularly when moving into leadership and management roles, normally it coincides with people, you know, having mortgages, having a home, you know, having kids, getting married, all that sort of stuff. When there's all this change, you're certainly going from like someone in your, you know, early to mid to late 20s to someone who's like, "Oh, I'm just all grown up now, am I?" Well, just all this responsibility.
I guess that's sort of where I'm at the moment. You know, it's like 1 minute I was, you know, in my early 20s, you know, enjoying footy and
video games, footy and
gaming,
maybe
and
girls,
maybe
or something.
a couple girls here and there. And then now into my late 20s, early 30s, it's like. I've just got this lifestyle now where it's just rinse, repeat, you know, and it's not necessarily a bad or boring lifestyle, but it's definitely a more, I guess, structured lifestyle. It can be repetitive at times, but I think it's a lot healthier, and it can still be fun. Like I still enjoy my life, but it's just two totally different lifestyles, you know.
Just a mad amount of change in a short period of time, mate.
Yeah, literally. And like we were speaking about it earlier about I've been in this industry for 12 years, and to break down my life as an electrician over those 12 years, probably the biggest amount of change has happened in the last 2 of those 12. You know what I mean? So
in both aspects,
correct.
Personal and professional.
Correct. Yeah. So between work and my personal life, the last 2 years of my life have probably been the biggest change for me. So it's crazy. I never actually really put it into perspective until, I guess, this conversation.
Well, when you think about it, hey, and it's like, you know, credit to you for being able to, you know, still be at it and progressing and surviving through it. Like that's the hard thing to do. Like switching off, like you were saying, it's hard to do.
Yes.
What do you find? What works for you?
I think so. At the start, it was very hard. I did struggle with switching between the two and making sure, that I'm not keeping my work life involved with my personal life. So I think a lot of the times when I first moved into management, I would actually spend a good 10, 20 minutes just sitting in my driveway and just recalibrating my brain to, you know, it's all right, time to switch off from work here. And then before I even go inside, just start thinking about, you know, stuff inside the household, or just sort of letting that stuff out of my body before I actually get through the door and let anything that's affected me that day, you know, prevent it from rinsing into the house, you know. So
take a breath,
just take a couple big breaths and go, all right, you know, you might have had a shocker of a day, but don't let that reflect on what's going to happen once you walk through that door. I think I can't say that I've mastered it. There's obviously still days where I'd have a shocker, and sometimes it could leak out into the house, but just having, I guess, a supportive partner as well and a supportive family, and they obviously know how important my role is in the company, and sometimes I might have a bad day, so just having that that supportive partner with you to be that by your side. And
well, when you were saying before around, you don't want to talk about it because it's probably just going to make you feel worse anyway. Like, I can really relate with that.
Yeah.
And you don't want to because you don't want to, I suppose, sound frustrated or be frustrated and bring that home and in the home. But then also too, I suppose, from your partner's point of view, like, how will she know, in the future, like what you've got to deal with if you're never talking about it? And that's probably something I was probably really guilty of, is I just didn't talk about work. Yeah. And when you've got lots going on, and then sometimes you're off, like you said, you're not perfect sometimes, which is natural. They're going, well, what's the matter with you?
Yeah, definitely. So now it's like I'm sort of at the stage now where I will share glimpses of what my work life is like with my partner. She's real understanding. She's real supportive. Obviously she has her own issues that she has to deal with throughout the day as well, bringing up young kids and raising children. I know it's not an easy job. So out of the two jobs, she probably has the harder one, realistically. So I do take my hat off to her. But yeah, just trying to share that, the feelings that I get at work with her without trying to get frustrated about that subject further, and she could probably give me some advice that I could listen to on how to, how to handle the situation when I go in the next day, or, say there's an upset client or there's an upset work employee inside the industry or the company. Just giving me a little bit of an insight on what she thinks.
Different perspective.
Just a different perspective, bro, because I see myself as quite a, I wouldn't say staunch, but I'm quite a direct manager. So, I don't mind giving leeway, and I don't mind being, mates and friends, as long as you're doing your part, So if I feel like I'm being disrespected in that aspect, then I'll probably come down a bit harder. But it just all leads back to what I was saying earlier of being able to separate personal from business. So
well, that's hard too. Like, if you're not feeling respected and you do have to, be a little bit more direct. Like, you don't necessarily want to do that, and it annoys you that you're probably having to do it. Right? Which, it's sort of, there's some baggage that goes with it. But I suppose too, the other thing too is like, yourself with the ops manager role is, at the start it's harder. You're getting used to that change, but then you're starting to master it, and you get to a point where it's like, okay, I enjoy this. This is a cool challenge now instead of a daunting challenge.
Definitely.
So it makes it easier too.
I'm sort of in the position now where I start to see patterns, and I start to see reoccurrences. You start reading your employees. You start figuring out what sort of person they are, what sort of tradesman they are, what qualities they have and what cons they have. So you can sort of start, I guess, juggling your work life or your role to try and suit sort of what everyone's attributes are, which is probably one of the biggest things that I've enjoyed about being an ops manager, is sort of seeing every individual employee, because every spike is different. There's always, more than one way to skin a cat. So one tradie's way might be different, completely different to another tradie's way. And if they can justify what they've done and tell me, the standards that they've used in order to get that outcome, then I'll back it.
When just like understanding those personalities too, mate. Like,
correct.
Around, some might like a lot of feedback and a lot of praise, and some mightn't. See that as a pain. Hey, I'm busy. Leave me alone. And finding out those particular things. But you're right. Like that first sort of, let's say 6 months, you're there just going like, holy hell, like what's going on here? I've got to get my head above the water here. You don't even have time to even worry so much about the finer points with the team. But then once you get over that, you found that, now I can start to look at the different things. I can do that now. That's under control. I can look after all that.
Like you were saying, there's some people that, they just like to put their head down and just work hard. And then there's other people that like that reassurance, that communication with them throughout the day. You're doing a good job. You're having, you might be having a bad day, but just reassuring them that it's not gonna be like that all day or forever. Sometimes you're going to have a shit day. This is how it is. I think it's like that in any industry, wherever you go.
Yeah. Well, and too, like I'd imagine, someone who's, only been a tradesperson for a year compared to someone who's been a Sparky for 10
Correct.
years, there's probably different levels of, I suppose, support needed, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think, and look, I did it myself as well. You do your apprenticeship, you finish your apprenticeship, you go into your trade, you're 12 months in, maybe 24 months in, you walk around like you're King Kong, and you're like, yeah, I'm a tradie now. I know everything. I know every clause under the sun. I know this, I know that. And then you go out and do jobs on your own, and then it's one after the other, you start making mistakes, and it's like, well, maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was. It is a reality check, and I see it every day. I see tradesmen that have just freshly turned from an apprentice to a trade, and they think that they're ducks nuts, and then the pressure comes in. You're running your own crew, or you're running your own apprentices, and then it's like, I forgot I've got to look after this kid as well. This kid's only 17 years old, and I've got to make sure that he's safe, power's isolated, making sure that he's not going to hurt himself while I'm still trying to do my job. So I see it every day, bro, where people think that they're good tradesmen. And like you said, a tradie with 1 year experience and a tradie with 10 years experience are going to be two totally different Sparkies.
When you completed your apprenticeship, how long before you had like an offside?
I'd say between six to 12 months it took before I started running jobs with apprentices with me. A lot of the time when I first qualified, it was sort of like a one-man crew. You would go out and just start. I was doing small jobs on my own, stuff that wouldn't really need much supervision or direction. It's just, you're putting a PowerPoint on, or a light bulb or a light switch. They're very basic parts of electrical. So just starting off with that sort of aspect of electrical, and then once I got my own apprentices, we started doing full houses, rewires, full lighting packages, redoing the whole house as electrical. All that sort of stuff is probably when it starts getting a little bit more intense, and just being able to take that next step and that next leap, I guess, into that pressure and to that how would I say it? Just being able to cope with that sort of, responsibility. Yeah.
Yeah. Because like you said, you're probably full of beans a little bit, second year,
Correct,
and then you get a different dynamic when you've got someone with you that you've got to repeat things to probably a few times, which is a frustration.
Yeah.
And then you're thinking ahead for them, and there's some frustration there. But then also too, like you get the bigger jobs and you may think you've got it nailed, and then you start making mistakes and probably figure out that, hey, I need some support here from time to time, and being okay with calling my ops manager or whoever else, or the leading hand, to be able to go, hey, what would you do here?
And I think, and that's just more praise to my director, I guess. Like when I was coming up as an apprentice, as a tradie, he was always so readily available for me to speak to, and he always said to me and a couple of other boys, if you ever feel confused or you're not confident in what you're doing, I would always prefer that you call me. He still has faith in us as electricians, but if you feel like you're confused and you're on the spot, you sort of don't know what to do, you've come backed up to a wall, then it's probably better off he'd prefer that we speak to him, and he can give us some advice or some knowledge on how to handle that situation, which is something that I've probably taken in quite a lot for myself as a manager now as well, is always being ready and able to take a phone call with the boys that are now managers. Just always being there for them and making sure that they know that I'm there for them if they ever need to speak to me, answer my phone, or I call them and regularly check in on them. I think sometimes I get an excess of 100 to 200 calls a day, and it's just from the boys, just reassurance or direction, or how would you do this, or how would you do that, or checking in on them. Hey, how's this job going? Or, is there anything you want, some advice on how to do a job?
So a day in the life of an ops manager running a team of electricians. Like, how many electricians have you guys got on those roads?
So at the moment, company-wide, I think there's about 40 of us.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you're there for support, people calling in and all that sort of stuff. You're dealing with customers as well.
Yep.
Yeah. So whether that's and you're probably inheriting the things that have gone wrong, I suppose, as an ops manager.
Yeah,
It's it's not as though the schedule is looking after that to a certain extent.
Yeah. So we've just recently taken in a scheduler, but before that, I'd say about
You were doing all that. as well.
So I was doing the scheduling, obviously organising the boys' daily tasks or their daily jobs. So going through all the crews, seeing what their day is going to entail, and making sure that everyone's going to have a relatively basic 8-hour day. You know, a lot of our boys just work a standard 8-hour day, and that if they wish to work longer, they can. There's always plenty more work, but I'd say a lot of our boys work between 8 to 10-hour days every day, and it's I guess it was my job to make sure that we could have the right amount of work with the right amount of installers on each job, making sure that all of our jobs are still going to finish in that time frame, but still make money as well.
Yeah. You're running a business.
Correct.
Yeah, it's sort of it's hard, that, isn't it? Because you're there, you exist to run a business and do well and be profitable, but then also too, you don't want to be overworking the boys, and I don't know, whenever I do a job around the house or something like that, I estimate 3 hours and it takes me 6, right? And I'm sure there's an element of that with different things that pop up.
Margins would be a little bit off there, Green.
Yeah, I think so. High expectations.
Yeah, definitely. So we like to base our work off, without giving obviously too much info away about our company. We like to base obviously everything off estimations. It would all be based off the average worker. Yeah. Obviously you could have a gun tradie and a particularly slow tradie. So we just try to keep it in the middle in terms of our work, and make sure that obviously the client's happy, but also the boys, like you said, are still finishing at a relatively good time. I don't want the boys working till midnight every night, but just finding that happy medium, I guess. And yeah, like you said, still running a business, making money, but keeping all the boys happy as well, which is one of the things that I think sits with me quite a lot. Like obviously being a tradie with a lot of those boys myself, having that friendship with a lot of them, and trying to separate that friendship. It's hard for me to keep them happy and also still make money. So
and
just being able to separate that.
And I imagine with that relationship too, they'd probably be happy to be quite direct with you if you're not getting it right as well. Right?
Oh yeah, I can guarantee you that a couple of the traders have told me to bloody get flipped.
What are you doing to me?
Yeah. Or they might have plans, and we're just under the pumps. It's like, I'm sorry, man. It's just the way that the cards are sometimes. You're just gonna have to battle it out. Yeah. The sooner you get it done, the sooner you can go to your bloody disco.
I had the pleasure of having, as you know, crew of your guys come around, and one thing that struck me, I had a mains issue, and Western Power weren't able to fix it. I needed to get a contractor out. Called up you guys, and within an hour, someone was out here having a look at it, estimating it on the phone to you, understanding all that sort of stuff. Like, that's set up. So you got like people out on the road all the time doing that?
Correct. Yes. So we have pretty much 3 main departments, which is our estimating crews. They are all qualified electricians, and then we've got an installer crew, and those are the boys that will come out and do the work for you. Yeah. And then you've obviously got your admin and your management. So yeah, a lot of I'd say our income or our flow of work comes from generating leads, and we send out an estimator. He comes out quite fast. We have girls in the office that are just running 24/7 on phone, so I guess that's why we're so prompt.
Some stories deserve to be remembered. So many achievements, lessons and stories go unrecognised. The challenges people overcome, the impact they have on others, and the contribution teams make are often never captured. That's why we created Leadership Recognition Stories, a way for businesses to recognise their people, celebrate their achievements, and capture the stories that help shape them. While gifts are appreciated, stories create something people can keep, share, and look back on for years to come.
Yeah, well, it's something that I noticed straight away. Like I was sort of there and I was at a situation where we had no power at the house because Western Power switched it off until we got this sorted out.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, we've got fridges full of food here.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it was in the middle of winter. It's going to be cold like
Yeah.
tonight, what's going on? And I spoke to, I was expecting it to take some time, but like scheduling wise, you're able to, that'd be quite difficult because you've got to, okay, well, here's what we've got for the week. But then I imagine you're probably keeping slots open for people like myself where, oh, mate, I need this sorted straight away. Like,
Yeah, correct.
Is that how that sort of works?
So that sort of relays back to me trying to separate my work and personal life. Sometimes when I'm at home and I get phone calls like what happened to your house, for example, people lose power. I've got to sort of move things around to obviously prioritize these sort of scenarios. And realistically, what we do is we just try and get obviously all of our emergency work in the first thing the next morning, or maybe speak to a few clients who'd be willing to move their bookings onto a different time slot. Some people may just want a couple lights, replace feature lights or stuff like that. So a lot of them are pretty,
Can wait, yeah.
yeah, they can wait, and they're willing to work with us. We always like to prioritize emergency work and make sure that it's our clients have got their power back on as soon as possible.
Is that pretty abnormal though, emergency work, or is that common?
I'd say in Perth, emergency work is common. I don't think the promptness or like the ability for other companies to get there, do the work as fast as we do, I don't think that's very common at all. And I think that's possibly part of the reason why we dominate, is a lot of other companies are out there, they're booked out for weeks, if not months, but I guess that's where we come in, is just making sure that we can go from a phone call to being at your door doing the work, within hours.
Yeah, call to quote to then completion of work, right? Like that, you want that window to be as tight as possible, right?
Correct,
because that's your cash flow coming through, right?
Correct.
But I suppose there's lots going in on that. Like there's the scheduling aspect, but then also to the resources that you've got available to schedule.
Yeah.
If you're, you got one van, you're one man band and, hey, I'm booked out for 3 weeks, we're going to lose work, aren't you?
Correct.
Whereas I suppose that other aspect of it, making sure that you got the right amount of people and keeping in mind that it's probably not that easy to get a tradesperson. You're more likely going to have to spend 4 years to train one to an apprenticeship. So like, I don't know, like that's pretty, how do you go with that? Like that'd be pretty hard. Like you've got, I imagine your director's got growth strategies or where it wants to go to. Hey, let's get to here. It's like, oh yeah, great. That means I'm going to need to do this.
Yeah, so we're frequently having meetings and discussions on, what sort of targets we want to hit, and what sort of monthlies we want to hit and KPIs and stuff like that. So making sure that we're able to hit those sort of numbers, and what sort of marketing and sort of stuff we do as well, without going into too much detail, the things that go on behind the scenes to make sure that we're hitting those numbers, and just having, I guess, a good community in between ourselves. Everyone sort of works for each other. We're a team, and the office girls are just as important as the boys on the road, and the boys on the road are just as important as the director, and the director's just as important as everyone else. We all play a role in the company, and making sure that as long as we're all doing our part, then the next person down the line or in line can still do his job as well. So just trying to have,
it'd be a balancing act too. Like thinking about it, okay, well you throw in some money on Google, right, to make sure that your company's up the top, right?
Yeah.
And then, okay, well, that's an influx of calls. We don't have the right amount of resources to even take the calls, never alone the right amount of estimates if we get it, wrong. And depending upon, I imagine too, seasonally, like you get...
Definitely. Yeah. Seasons would play a big part, and that obviously, like I said, plays a part in what sort of marketing we do as well, depending on what season it is.
Yeah. Just to try and keep it pretty constant?
Yeah. Like we've obviously got a number that we try to hit every month, and there's different sort of, I guess, strategies and advertising that we would hit depending on what sort of month of the season we're in or whatever, you know, to make sure that, you know, we're still achieving that number. And don't get me wrong, sometimes we might hit it, sometimes we won't. You know, it's just the reality of business. And, but yeah, just trying to make sure that we obviously get that number or as close to that number as we can. So.
What other slow times for electricians?
Well, for us electricians, our industry specifically is winter is probably the booming side of the times. Just because obviously, like you said, we focus a lot on emergency work and no power stuff. So with our promptness and getting out to jobs, that would be probably our higher peak times. Whereas I'd say leading into summer, maybe drops down a little bit, or even after the Christmas, you know, a lot of people, you know, they're trying to get over Christmas holidays and stuff like that. So a lot more people are
Not so much work there.
yeah, there's not as much work. People are still on holiday or recovering financially from holiday, you know, so
or Christmas, yeah.
yeah, recovering from Christmas, you know, they might have dropped, you know, 10, 20 grand on their bloody Christmas holiday or something like that, you know, so I find a lot more people are trying to hold on to their money coming into the new year, and then it starts sort of picking up around mid-year to winter style, and then
Well, I imagine that works out all right too, because you know your team would probably have leave on particular time, that Christmas period and so forth. But I don't know, it's just lots to, you know, and like any operation, mate, there's different variables that go in, and you got to try and make it constant, and you got to have the team's best interest, but you also got to, you know, you got to turn a profit and you know, work towards some expectations that the business owners have and directors have, like that. It can be tough sometimes. You're right in the middle of that. Right?
It's we're sort of at the I guess we're at the stage now where my director's, I guess, he's taken a bit of a back seat and sort of just lets me run the business on my own. I also have like a partner as well. He runs our plumbing division.
Yeah.
And
you got plumbers as well. Okay.
We have, we've just recently started a plumbing division, so need any plumbing, hit up Saros. But yeah, so Tim and I run a pretty tight ship. He obviously looks after all the plumbing, and I look after all the electrical. And my director Riley, he sort of does a lot of the behind the scenes sort of stuff to make sure that you know the ship doesn't sink. So he's always constantly busy. I don't envy that man, that the stress that he puts himself under. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that goes into the business that a lot of people, you know, don't even think about or can't comprehend how it all works.
Yeah. So like that estimation role, like that's a role in itself. Like you just have a group. So like someone who's been a tradesperson for a while would just want to change and they want to move into something like that. Is that normally how you find it?
I personally find a good estimator is an estimator that knows what he's talking about. And my personal opinion is obviously if you've actually been in the industry yourself, like you're a qualified electrician, you've actually been out on the field, you know what you're talking about. That sort of aspect for me is what makes a good estimator. Obviously, I guess an estimator and a salesman are very similar, but they're two different things. We try not to label ourselves as salesmen because obviously we're still qualified tradesmen. None of our estimators that go out to site are unlicensed. You know, they have an electrical license or a plumbing license. So being able to have that knowledge broadly just from actually going out and actually doing what they're actually selling or estimating, you know, is what I guess separates us from other companies that are just purely salesmen that probably don't even have a license or have actually been out on the field. So
yeah, well, the nature of the work, isn't it? Like okay, well, someone comes around my house and says, okay, well, you need this, this, this.
Yep.
Like there's like if you're a salesperson, one, you got to know that stuff, but then secondly, you don't really want to oversell because you still got to deliver on it, right? Like,
correct.
And that, you know, reputation wise, that's obviously important.
Yeah,
definitely. You need to be able to deliver, and then also too the tradespeople that inherit that estimate that need to then, you know, do the work in that time and get it to a point. Yeah.
And you know, sometimes there can be times when you know, maybe an estimator is quoted to do this other additional stuff as well, you know, and it's like You may be, let's say, upgrading it to standard, or adding value to your house or whatever, however you want to put it. And I guess you can have scenarios where people just want the bare minimum, or people, they invite you in and they say, "Oh, how would you do this? I want to, I'm doing a kitchen reno, or I'm doing a laundry reno, or whatever. I just want your professional opinion on how to do this, and that." Having estimators who have been in the field and they've personally, done the work, I think is what separates obviously a good estimator from a salesman. A salesman is just going in there to see dollar signs, whereas an estimator is trying to also, build that rapport with the client and, still see them as a normal person rather than just as a client. And if this was my house and this is how I would do it, or
it's more what they need, what needs to, I suppose, be fixed, or hey, what they would like as well.
Correct. Just having either the bare minimum, this is what you can do to obviously make it operational and it works, or we could do this and we could get you the premium and do this and that, and it's just like, well, it all just depends, I guess, on what sort of work the client wants and how fast they want it done.
No, that's cool. Moving into ops manager role from being a tradesperson, like what did you find that you struggled with the most? Like, was there anything in particular?
Email,
okay. What, just that they kept coming in, or what?
I guess it's, just obviously going from a tradie to being behind a computer, I guess, to put it bluntly. I guess I still miss it now, is just being hands-on to now just, sitting behind a desk and, rather than going out and doing physical labor, I'm sitting in a desk, 8 to 10 hours a day, looking at a screen is probably the most difficult thing for me to adjust to, I guess.
It's interesting that too, because like even just reflecting when I moved into my first leadership role, it's like you find yourself like with emails, like, rereading it or rewriting it 5 times. Just send it. What are you stressing about? But you don't want to come across wrong, and you got high standards. You want it to be done right, but you end up, overthinking things a lot.
Yeah. And there's a lot of tasks that go into obviously being an ops manager and making sure all of those tasks hit every day. Those sort of tasks, you could do your schedule, you could do your times, you can do the boys, JSAs, stuff like that, emails, making sure emails are
a lot of compliance stuff.
Compliance or Q&A, or making sure clients are getting responses, or the girls in the office might say, hey, did you, speak to this client about that? And, if I've had my phone in my hand for the last 3 hours and then you forget about it and then the girls come back again, so just trying to, I guess, find that balance, whereas I think I'm slowly getting it now, but again, it just all comes back to all working as a team, I guess. And as long as you're doing your job, everyone else can do theirs.
Like you were saying, you're getting a lot of calls a day. You're in front of a screen, so you're getting interrupted a lot.
Yeah.
It's like, what was I doing just before? Like that'd be frustrating.
Yeah.
But I don't know, keeping calm, was that easy to do? Was that hard? Like you're a pretty calm fella, right? But, like I would classify you as a calm fella, but I don't know, it takes its toll on anyone, right?
Definitely. I guess there's definitely some times where, you're having a bad day and it's like, wow, I need to, go and extinguish all of this anger or bloody built up, this bloody built up pressure. So I tend to go out for a walk, just leave the office, go down the road. If the phone's burning again, then I'll just answer the phone and just walk outside, get a bit of fresh air, bit of vitamin D in you.
Bit of movement.
Yeah.
Particularly if you come from doing that, like you're out and about, you're seeing different people, you're doing things with your hands, practical, you're physically getting a bit tired. I know electricians don't do much, mate. That's what all the other
we
trades
do the least and get the most.
That's right. And talk about it the most too, don't they say, on the other trades?
That's right.
But like you go from that practical background, and like you said, you enjoy that, to then being sitting in front of a screen, phone going off its head,
Sometimes it can be daunting, really. Like you said, I'm trying to do, a number of things on my computer, and then my phone's burning, and then the girls are, calling my office phone, and you're trying to, essentially juggle 3 things at once. And then, you pay attention to this thing, and then you lose track of that thing, and then you forget that thing. So just having, I guess, workflows in place to make sure that if you do miss something, you can just go back to it and make sure that that thing does get attention, or make sure that it is done. And
that computer-based work, Hem, was that like a bit of a culture shock for you, or was that all right? Like you were pretty good on computers, or was that hard?
I'd say in terms of like user-wise, I probably wasn't the best. Literature and grammar and stuff, I'd say was pretty all right for me. But in terms of actually using a computer and using, multiple different apps and figuring out how each app works and how to schedule and how to answer emails and, how to do people's times and spreadsheets and stuff like that.
And reporting.
Doing reporting and, P&L and stuff like that. That is something that, it took me by surprise a little bit. Now where I'm at the stage where I can read a sales report, or I can read a profit report, or being able to, answer emails in a professional manner, or, how to deal with different sort of scenarios, professionally, but also at a fast pace. And, a lot of, if there's clients that want answers or have questions, being able to give them those answers and give them those reassurances at a fast and valuable time is probably
dealing with customers. How's that? Like, is that over the phone? Like, probably a little bit different to in person when you're on the tools.
Yeah,
like people are probably a little bit more polite in person. Most
definitely.
of the time, but over the phone, and you're dealing with something that's probably gone really south, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. How's that?
I think, from my experience, if the client's calling me, then it's probably too late. It's too far south now.
Just got to listen.
By the time the phone call gets to me, it's too far south. So I've got to try and obviously, I guess, de-escalate the situation and figure out what's actually happened, or if what they're trying to say is true, or if my tradesman has done something wrong, or maybe if he's done something wrong and he's done something wrong and the client's saying something else, or you know what I mean. So always just trying to handle a scenario with the client and deal with it in a professional manner, but also keeping them happy and also keeping my boys happy as well. Just trying to handle it really, how you would speak to them, and just having that self-control to not, tell them to get fucked or whatever,
Be polite.
Yeah, you got to be polite about it. And, the customer's always right, but, there's always going to be 2 sides to a story. Wanting to make sure that we're always Mickey Mouse on both sides. So
what's harder, having a difficult conversation with a customer or one of your boys that you've worked alongside previously?
I think, for me personally, having that hard conversation with clients, I know that some of my colleagues are probably more stronger than me at this scenario, but I guess it's just dealing with the confrontation or the intimidation of an upset client, maybe, and being worried about how I'm going to react or how I'm going to resolve this issue. Like I said earlier, if by the time the phone call gets to me, it's probably too far gone. So if I'm talking to a client, and a lot of the times they're probably not for good reasons. So just trying to deal with, de-escalating the situation and making sure that we can try and get something positive out of this. And I'd never want any client that goes through Saros to, feel hard done by or anything like that. So just trying to come to a conclusion where the client can still walk away happy, and we can come with a result that, suits both parties, I guess. And
it's funny, hey, how our bodies react when we're in a bit of a confrontational situation, right?
Yeah.
Like, you've played rugby league for many years, you've run straight at people for a long time, right?
Yeah.
You've done a bit of boxing, you're not scared by a lot, right?
Yeah.
But a phone call with a customer and you start to get these butterflies, and
definitely.
it's weird. Like,
It is,
did you beat yourself up over that? It's like, what's going on?
I don't know what it is. I guess it's something I don't know, something mental, maybe something that I've had just my whole life, or it's
It's not unusual, Hemi.
Yeah.
Like, this is why I'm bringing it up. It's not
Yeah.
unusual. I've felt it.
Yeah.
You know, and there's plenty of people that I work with what I do that feel
Yeah.
it as well.
Yeah.
You know, it's really common.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like you said, I've played heavy contact, aggressive sports all my life, and I've never had that sort of fear factor in my mind. Then I speak to Dorothy down the road, who's 82, and she's
Tearing strips off you.
yeah, because her light won't turn off or something. And then I'm like, oh. How do I handle this scenario and make sure that she's, she ends up being happy, and how can we resolve it? So I think, I guess, just having a good, I don't know, being a good people person, like having good communication skills. I think I communicate with people quite well. Being able to speak to them in a friendly manner always helps. Obviously, you don't want to be, regardless of if you're right or wrong, you don't want to be speaking to a client in an aggressive manner, because it's just not going to make any progress.
You know what we're saying, sporting analogy, right? You've done that for a long time. You're used to it, right? Yeah. And then how many times you've been in a situation where someone's abusing you on the phone?
Yeah.
It's it's probably not that often, right?
No.
So
that's right.
it's just that, right? Is that it's unusual, but it's really common, and particularly with guys as well. Like you would think just because they've done like what you've done in your example that, they'll be fine with that. They've dealt with this. Surely they'll be okay. Yeah. It's like, no, it's not that simple.
Yeah, definitely. I think, it all leads back to obviously having that good team, and the girls, they're quite good. They look after me, so they'll always give me some, the office girls will give me some input and, tell me what sort of scenario we're dealing with, or, what has happened on the job. And there's a number of workflows that they will tell me, this has happened, this has happened, this has happened. The boys have obviously given me their side, and this has happened. And then from there, I'll speak to the client and sort of see, okay, this is where we're at. This is how, I personally would handle it. Sometimes we may need to give, discounts or, vouchers and stuff to try and smooth them over, or just try and keep the client happy. At the end of the day, we always want to just try and keep our clients happy, and
which sometimes can be a pain too, because like you've done nothing wrong. They're complaining for no reason. Correct. And then you're having to essentially, bend over and concede because they're upset. We haven't done anything wrong here. We've actually done everything right, which can be hard too to sort of, I don't know, justify, like it's, hey, this isn't right.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's been a couple scenarios. I like to see myself as quite a staunch manager. So in terms of staunch, I just mean like I will hold my ground quite heavily.
Stand up for what you believe in. Not stand over people, but stand up for what you believe in.
Not necessarily stand over them, but I have 100% trust in all of my tradesmen, and I'll always back my tradies. And if there's something that they've done wrong, they'd let me know. You know what I mean? So
that's what history's told you, right?
Yeah.
Like you've seen their body of work that they've done over many years, and you've worked with them, and you've seen that. Yeah. So you've got that. Yeah.
And that all, I guess that all siphons back to, I worked alongside a lot of these boys, so I see the, the quality that they have as tradesmen, and if a client's trying to say one thing about a particular person, then I know personally about that tradesman that, well, no, he wouldn't do something like that, or he would tell me before something like that's happened. You know what I mean? I think I've built the respect and the trust with all my boys for them to, if they've fucked up, they would let me know prior to the client, and that's how I prefer it. Is if I'm getting a phone call from the boys, I'd rather it be from them first before the client. So at least I'm ready to, take this hiding from the client, or whatever, how to deal with the scenario. So
so scheduling, lots of moving parts. You got 1,000,001 phone calls coming in. You've gone from practical work to sitting in front of a computer. You've got customers that you've got to give some bad news to, or hear about their bad news, which is hard. You've probably got a different dynamic with the guys that you used to work with. So there's a chunk going on there, plus the computer-based stuff that you're not used to with emails. Like it's a bit of change. Like you can understand someone going from a trades role to into that, but then also too, like you break it down as like if you were saying before, how do I do a good job when I'm a tradesman? I make sure I've got good attention to detail. I work hard. I get things done fast and do them well, right?
Yeah.
And you can just roll up your sleeves and do that.
Yeah.
But then when you've got, okay, now I'm an ops manager and I've got this big body of work that I can't do on my own.
Yeah.
And I've got these resources that I'm responsible for.
Yeah.
That I have to get to do the work. You know, like there's a whole different element. It's a totally different game.
Definitely.
You know, adapting to that. That's you know, that's why why I wanted to speak to you, because you know, that's a really common thing. Like you've done a great job as a tradesperson and earned the right to then get into that role.
Yeah.
But that's it's hard.
Yeah, it is. And still to this day, I have struggles on how am I going to do this. But I think using a diary for me is something that helped me a lot. You know, my father always uses a diary as a tradesman himself, and I got my hands on a diary and started writing out daily tasks of what I need to do and what I need to prioritize, and you know, from the top of the list all the way to the bottom on what's most important, and you know what could probably be a little bit less, or I could do at a later stage. So yeah, just obviously having a good structure of what you should do throughout the day, and obviously every day there's going to be different sort of tasks, and just ticking those tasks off throughout the day from most important to least important. Whilst also managing your other daily tasks as well. So
well, I just think it can be easily understated, that whole thing of, okay, well, I've got this job I need to do today and I need to complete it, and it's just one job. You know, I'm changing over this switchboard or whatever, right? And that's it. Okay. But from your point of view, like you said, you've got multiple of these small things and these responsibilities, these different stresses that pop up. Yeah. It's a massive change.
It's big. Like there's just so many different moving parts all at once, and sometimes I'll go home and I've got a headache, and I'm like, why have I got a headache? I've done fuck all, you know. So,
I've sat down all day.
Yeah, but it's like the stress that I get from being in front of a screen and taking phone calls, and you know, dealing with the trades and how to, you know, or vehicles, you know, making sure all of our vehicles are on the road or they're getting maintenance, and everyone's licenses are up to date and everything's being done up to standard, and you know, or maybe there might be a client that is a bit cluey and, you know, wants to start wrapping off every single clause number in the bloody electrical book, you know, just being able to deal with that, or, you know, clients who want to speak directly to the manager, and it's a lot to take in, bro, sometimes.
And like, you even think from a personal point of view, Hemi, is like you've gone from being physically active, right? And you get, at the end of the day, you're physically tired. You've got a few things on your mind, but you're physically tired. Easier to go to sleep, less on your mind, right? To then sitting on your backside all day, being really sensory, you know, burnt, you know, but physically not tired.
Correct,
And then just like even things like intake of food that you used to, and you know, like when you're a tradie, I imagine, you know, like the amount of time you get to eat is sort of, but when you're in the office, you can eat a lot more. You know?
Definitely.
Got the lunchroom right next door or whatever.
The jiffy van pulling up every day. So.
But then if things aren't going right or you're stressed, well, your body's telling you, hey, slow down the metabolism. You know, I comfort eat. You know, you know, most people do comfort eat. Us boys like a bit of food. You know, it makes us feel better.
Definitely.
Like, just there's so much there.
Yeah. I think, diet is one of the little things that I didn't even really consider when I converted from a tradesman to obviously sitting in an office. Was obviously you go from doing between 10 to 20,000 steps every day when you're out on the field, you know, depending on how busy your day is, to now sitting in an office. I'd be lucky if I hit 5,000, you know. So I'm already in a negative there. You know, I'm not active. I'm barely getting any steps in, and then, like you said, you get comfort food and you want to eat food. And
I've gone for a walk. The lunch bar's there,
and so it's like, you know, trying to also stay healthy as well. It's just a totally different aspect in itself. You know, I'm trying to be healthy and not eat so much food. But you know, when you're out on the road, you can at least get that physical labor in where you're constantly moving. Whereas if you're sitting on your ass all day, it's hard to stay obviously active and stay healthy as well. You're trying to make sure you can eat the right food and stuff like that. So.
And then I imagine too, like you're, I don't know, a few months in, 6 months in, and then you got the boys you used to work with saying, oh, you know, how's the cushy job going, you know? And you were like dealing with all this stuff.
Yeah. There's been times, the weather has been rather cold lately. And so I've actually been putting my heater on in my office. And the boys come into my office and I just get burned because obviously now I'm sitting in my nice warm office and they're out there in the bloody pouring rain. So I cop a bit of shit for that.
Well, we all make choices in life, don't we?
I actually try to turn it off when I know they're coming in. You know, I'll warm up my office a little bit and then I'll turn it off before the boys rock up. So, I don't know what you're talking about, mate. It's just a bit warm in here.
Some stories deserve to be remembered. So many achievements, lessons, and stories go unrecognised. The challenges people overcome, the impact they have on others, and the contribution teams make are often never captured. That's why we created Leadership Recognition Stories, a way for businesses to recognise their people, celebrate their achievements, and capture the stories that help shape them. While gifts are appreciated, stories create something people can keep, share, and look back on for years to come.
That's like not doing practical work anymore. Have you sort of found like with hobbies and things like that you sort of do more practical stuff now? Or
So obviously I took a step away from playing rugby league last year and I hung them up, and now it's opened up a lot more time for me to do a bit of boxing in the background. So I'm doing that quite frequently now. I train between 4 to 5 days every week, and that sort of just ties in with my lifestyle now. Whereas footy was, you know, we're training Tuesday, Thursdays, and then you're playing on Saturday. Whereas boxing for me, it's like Monday to Friday every single day, and I, you know, do my typical work day, and then I come home, spend a couple of hours with my family and my son, and then tie my shoes back up and go train boxing and, you know, get my head punched in for a couple of hours and then come home. And it's good too because it sort of ties in with my work. So, you know, maybe if I've had a bad day or
you can get some
I can let a bit of heat out, or you know, if I've had some disappointing times at work with a client or maybe whatever, just being able to let that sort of heat off.
A healthy way to do it.
And in a healthy way as well, you know, like it's something that's, not sounding corny, but it's changed my life dramatically is being able to go in and box. And I've always had some sort of knack or interest in boxing. It's not something that I've always like idolized as a kid, but I've always had that sort of interest in it that sort of just floated in the back there. And then once I stopped playing footy, it was like, well, I've got to do something else now to stay busy, you know?
No, it's like you get to that bit of a doom loop, wouldn't you? Like if you're stressed all the time at work, you're not doing as many steps anymore. Start putting on weight. You feel a bit crap because of that. You know, like you can see how that sort of spirals a bit.
Yeah, definitely. And I say maybe this time last year, you know, I was probably 125, 127 kilos, you know, so I can definitely see what you're saying there. And that term is like, you know, I'm just eating like shit. I'm coming home, I'm sitting on the couch, I'm not doing anything, you know.
Zombie mode,
Just zombie mode, or I might be stressed out, so I just want comfort food, and, you know, I might go to McDonald's or eat some chocolate or something, and then that just becomes like a repetitive lifestyle, and I get comfortable in that sort of setting. Whereas now it's just trying to still stay healthy, still stay active, obviously still perform at work, and try and have a balance. I guess the balance has probably been one of the hardest things for me, really. Not even in terms of work, it's just my life, I guess, balancing life.
Well, even that, mate, of, you know, going to work, then coming home, see your family, and like you enjoy spending time with your family. You don't want to then go out again. You know, you're tired as well.
Yeah.
But it's you need to get some stuff out sometimes, right? Like and you don't want to end up in a point where you're, you know, you're out of shape and you're feeling terrible and you're not healthy and you're not setting a good example for your kids or whatever it is. But then also too, you don't want to neglect them or feel guilty that you're away from them because you've been away from them for a long period. And,
Correct.
You know, your missus is bringing up, you know, you're supporting. It's hard to do all that. Balance
it
that.
is. And
I agree with what you're saying.
I don't think I've quite mastered it yet. There's probably still little tweaks that I could make. Just the amount of time, I guess, really is. Obviously, I still try and make that couple hours of time with my son and my partner after work. But you know, maybe if my son's a bit crook or my missus is feeling a bit under the weather, you know, just take that night off from training and you know, prioritize, you know, being around my family and helping the family out and making sure they're all good. So just having that balance, bro, I guess.
It's hard to get it, and I don't think anyone really gets it right. And there's different perspectives too. Like
definitely.
If you ask your missus compared to asking yourself, there might be two different versions too, right? Like there's even that. But it's sort of hard, all that, like you're just trying to do your best. Yeah. Right? Like we're all on the same team. We're trying to do our best and balance it all, and you're not going to get it right. But
definitely.
Particularly with all that change. Why boxing? What was it about boxing?
I don't know. I guess I'd probably consider myself a bit of a grub on the footy field. I think there's a couple boys out there on the other side of the field that wouldn't mind jumping in the ring with me. So.
But you like that physical sort of combative, aggressive.
Yeah, obviously, like I've come from a rugby league background. I've always been in the high intensity, high aggression, knocking each other around sort of environments. I guess boxing is something that I've always enjoyed, but I've never truly respected up until this year, I guess. I probably come from a bit of a rougher background in my teenage years. I sort of, how do I put this? I sort of like to get into bloody schoolyard fights and stuff like that. You know, I was a bit of a misfit in school, and you know, I guess that's probably what always stuck in the back of my head is, you know, I'm pretty good at this. I could probably give this a crack, and now that I do it, you know, full time as a recreational sport, you know, it really opens up your eyes, and you get to see, you know, people that do really know how to fight and know how to box. They're levels above, you know, some guy off the street that, you know, thinks he can bang. Someone like
there's a bit more to it.
Yeah, there's a lot more to it, but it's just something that I guess I really enjoy. The fitness aspect of it is I've never done some fitness as hard as in my life. This is probably some of the hardest cardio and exercise, you know, that I've done training boxing, and the feeling that you get once it's finished and, you know, you feel accomplished. You know, you would know, obviously, coming from a large footy background, there's just those dopamine hits that you get, I guess, after you've just slugged it out with someone for the last, you know, 6 rounds, just sparring each other, trying to knock each other's head off, or, you know, you're learning from each other different techniques and different, you know, styles of fighting, and it's a different sort of dopamine, I guess.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It sounds weird. I know you will get this, but you know, people who listen might sound a bit weird and a bit off. But you know, like playing contact sports and being used to that and enjoying that, right? Like we're human beings that have evolved for movement and you know, combat and do different things across our history, right? So it's obviously within us, right? And you know, you don't play footy for a while, or you know, don't do something physical for a while. Like there's just times where you just want to run into something, right? And have that physical, that outlet, and test your body to see what you're able to do and improve. And I couldn't do that before, but now I can do that, or I'm getting better at this, or you know, you're physically using your tool to be able to to do things, which is cool.
It's a cool feeling. The way that I would describe, for me, boxing would be like if you were running off the back fence over and over and over and over again at the same person, you know what I mean? It's just like having that feeling of like, is this guy going to pump me, or am I going to run over him? You know what I mean? That sort of mentality, and you know, but also having boxing as like more of they say it's like a gentleman's sport, because it's almost like you're playing chess. You're trying to you know, move this way and move that way. You're trying to hit but not get hit, you know. So yeah, like you said, just having that embedded in your brain to, you know, want that sort of contact, I guess, is something that you grow up with or you're sort of born into, and
Wired that way or whatever it is, hey.
Yeah.
But it's you know, it's
it's funny, but yeah, I thoroughly enjoy it, and you know, so I had a charity fight at the start of the year. That was end of March, I think it was. That was good fun.
That was your first boxing
Yeah,
fight?
so that was my first sanctioned amateur fight.
How were you going into the ring before that? Like, was that pretty nerve-wracking?
It was pretty nerve-wracking, bro. So we, the boys, Nigel and Glenn at the PCR, they run a little charity event called the Perth Corporate Rumble, and we do like an 8 to 10 week fight camp, and you know, there's a random bunch of boys that all get selected, and women as well, and you go in there and you do this fight camp and you train. I think actually Courtney, she come in and done your podcast with you. Yeah, she was one of my coaches, and great lady, and she's a great coach, and you go up to her gym and she sort of, you know, teaches you how to box and the fundamentals of a boxer, and I guess that was what really locked me into boxing, was being a part of that community and being a part of that culture and learning, you know, how to be a boxer, and just the friends and stuff that I made along the way, and you know, once the actual night came, you know, the nerves just come in. It was like it'd almost be like playing a grand final, you know, when you're in the
same feeling.
It's the exact same feeling, bro. You know, and we're behind the stage, and you've got all the media and stuff, and they've got their headphones on, and they're like, you know, you're walking out in 3, 2, 1, and then you walk out there, and there's like over 1,000 people, you know, and then it's like, wow.
I reckon the nerves would be more in that. Like, I've never, you know, had a fight in a ring before.
Yeah.
But the nerves, like, going out, because it's just you. Yeah. Like on a footy field, there's, you know, you can hide a little bit. Right?
Yeah, there's no one cheering you up, you know.
Just you.
Yeah. So that for me, and like even when we're in the green room and, you know, we're doing pad work and we're getting wrapped up, the whole day you're just buzzing, bro. Like, and I'd imagine that's somewhat what a professional boxer's lifestyle would be like, and just. Yeah, that buzz is unreal, bro. And just warming up behind the scenes, and then you go to walk out and you look up and you see all your friends and family and like 1,000 other people all screaming your name, and so that was actually quite cool and quite daunting at the same time. And you know, walking out into the ring, and
what was your walkout song?
It was Bagpipes from Baghdad by Eminem.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was a bit of a G up sort of song, so to get me in the zone. But and then once I got into the ring, everything sort of just shut out, and I had paid no attention to anyone outside of the ring. It was just me and my opponent, and that's all I was focused on, you know. It was like all the nerves had just gone straight out the window. And all I was focused on was, you know, taking this guy's head off, or making sure that, you know, that was my hand that got raised. Unfortunately the fight didn't go the way I wanted it to go. You know, I got like a medical TKO. My opponent tore his bicep. So
oh goodness.
Yeah, I'm not sure on what actually happened. I don't know if it was just from a block, or if when I had my guard up, he's torn it on his arm, sort of thing. So, it was really unfortunate way for it to go down, but still got the win at the end of the day. And from there, I've never looked back, and now I'm just training every day, and I just want to get back in there as soon as possible. So,
what did you what surprised you in the fight? Like, was your cardio up to scratch, or your technique? Like, what did you sort of find? Was there anything that?
I think for, you know, obviously as a big guy like myself, the cardio was probably the hardest thing for me to achieve. You know, being a front rower and footy to then going down to be a boxer, they're two totally different types of fitness stereotypes. I'd say the cardio was probably the hardest thing for me. I mean, by the time fight camp had finished, I'd say I was ready to go for all 3 rounds. However, during the fight camp, man, the cardio it was another level. It was like I was doing fucking Reds boot camp all over again with Casper.
Yeah, okay.
You know, like that sort of intense of training, you know. It's just a lot of mental hurt, and the grit that you have to show to, you know, keep showing up and keep training. You know, there's the first couple of weeks I was bloody spewing up because it's just the intensity of strength and conditioning that we're doing on like I think we'll train 4 to 5 days a week with the PCR. So just getting that cardio, and yeah, like I probably wasn't in the best shape when I first found out that I was in the flight crew. So yeah, getting that cardio in, and you know, obviously working on the basics and the techniques and stuff like that. But yeah, I'd say the cardio.
Well, it's two different types, right? Like I said, never boxed before, but you know, you're playing sport, footy, you more your legs, right? The cardio is coming from your leg movement, whereas boxing, it's all up top.
Yeah, correct.
So I'd imagine it's sort of like, you know, you go and you're pretty fit running, but then you go and swim and you're terrible, right?
Yeah. So I think, man, and I don't want to dog myself out, but since I've started boxing, bro, I'm probably running, you know, between 15 to 20K every week, you know, whereas when I was playing footy, I was
not doing as much.
I wasn't running 5K a week, you know what I mean, in my spare time, you know, whereas now it's like with boxing, it's like you have to be fit. You don't have a choice, you know, like there's either be fit or lose. So the fitter you are, the easier the fundamentals become, you know.
And what drives you to be fitter? Is that just that fear of, I don't want to look silly when I get to a fight?
Well, yeah, that's like you could jump in the ring and you could go hell for leather for the first 30 seconds. And then after that 30 seconds is up, if your opponent isn't on the ground or your hand's not getting raised, then you're probably going to be in some deep water, you know what I mean? So an average person could probably jump in the ring and have a good spin for a minute. But then once that cardio runs out, then it comes down to, I find that like preparing for something. Yeah. Like with footy, I find that like preparing for a footy season is you want to make sure that you're training to be functional on the field and perform at a high level, because you don't want to let yourself down, your teammates down. Yeah. But there's like that, you know, there's that, I suppose, test there that tells you, hey, you've been cheating or you haven't done as much or you are prepared, right? And the same with boxing, whereas, you know, like if someone's just going to the gym to look good, it's like, well, okay, well, it's not that motivating. I can miss a day. What does it matter? Yeah, definitely. I think, and that's what I guess I saw in myself was when I was playing footy, I was still going to the gym, you know, regularly and lifting weights and doing a little bit of cardio, maybe Stairmaster and a 2K run here and there, but the cardio and stuff, I was not doing it. And like you said, you get exposed pretty fast when, and you can tell when people are either been putting in the real work or if they're just going there for show. So my coach James down at Endorphin, he's doing wonderful things, and one of his biggest things is obviously your fitness. You have to be fit, and I'd say, you know, a lot of other boxing gyms are like that as well. So it doesn't matter how good you think you are at fighting. There's no point being a good fighter for 30 seconds, you know what I mean? So you got to be fit. So just having that discipline, bro, to work on your fitness, and you know, there's no negative to being fitter. So you know, that's something that I've realized now is being fit. There's no downfall to it.
Yeah, well, it's just allotting the time, right? If you can do that, you're good. What's plans for a second fight, or what are you?
Yeah, so me and my coach are in the talks of having another fight, but that just all leads back to fitness again, you know. So ideally, he wants me down to a light heavyweight, which is around between 82 to 85 kilos at the moment. Okay. I've just dropped back down to double digits. So I think when I fought the PCR, I was 98. I'm now 99. So yeah, if I can get down to say 88, 85, and then come fight week, shred those last couple of kilos. So I still got about 10 kilos to go. Yeah.
But that's a you know, to enable the discipline needed, like having that in your coach, wanting you to get to that point, then you've locked in a fight at that, you know, and then you have to make weight. Yeah. Like there's a different type of motivation and discipline there that will, you know, force you to do it and keep you fit, which you probably need with your lifestyle, with the
definitely.
work particularly.
Yeah, definitely. I think, obviously making weight is obviously my first priority, and doing all my fitness and doing all the cardio and making sure that, you know, I have the gas tank to go all 3 rounds. But So I'm just doing the fitness and, trying to eat right and, make sure my diet's right. My whole diet's changed in the last, I'd say, between 6 to 12 months, just cutting out, the necessities.
No, just the sugar, isn't it? It's the hard thing.
Not eating so much carbs and eating sugar and, not drinking piss every second weekend. And, there's so much little things that go into it and how much you actually want it. If I do want to fight, then those are the things that I have to cut out. So
it keeps you honest.
Yeah, it does, bro. And I guess that's the discipline side of it is, I can go out and have a couple of drinks every weekend, but is that going to help me, get to the goal that I want to be at to fight, or is that just going to prolong it even further, So I'm not going to get a fight until I get to this weight. And, having that sort of lifestyle outside of work and boxing where you're drinking or you're going out partying and stuff like that, the weight is not going to go down. So it's just making it even worse. So just cutting that sort of lifestyle out, bro, making sure you can, stay off the piss, stay healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's positive things. What's your go-to move, mate? Like you got a big right hook or something like that? Or what do you got?
The liver shot's actually my
liver shot. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't mind throwing a good liver shot out
Get them
there.
in early.
It's it's a very surprising shot. A lot of people obviously would try and go for the head and stuff like that, whereas I like to move around a bit, and once I find an opening, just stab that liver with a little left hook to the liver there and watch them squirm on the ground.
What would you find with with the weight division that you're in? They're more taller guys than you, or are they about the same? Or
yeah, I'd say the light heavyweight division, from what I've seen, a lot of them are quite tall, lanky sort of guys.
Like with reach and stuff. So.
Yeah, they've got a long reach. So
it's probably not a bad technique then for you, is it?
Yeah. Just making sure that I can find those openings and but just working the fundamentals, man. Like we get drilled a lot of the same combinations over and over and over again, and that's the way our coach likes to run it, and I prefer it like that as well. It's like practicing the same punch 1,000 times rather than 1,000 different punches.
Yeah, well, the fundamentals, right, and being great at them.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah. Just making sure the bare basics are sharpened and good quality. So
that's awesome, man.
Yeah, man, I'm really enjoying it, Green. I'm loving it.
That's good. Yeah, I don't know if I'd be lining up to box, mate. But I suppose
I've seen you in a couple of biffs on the field, mate. I reckon you'll be all right.
Never. I like mouthing off, but I don't know about the fighting.
Yeah, true.
But no, I suppose if people see any contact sport, they'd probably think you're crazy. But look, I think it's it's something that we've done for a long time, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's a positive way to get out, energy
definitely.
and live a healthy life and give you that discipline, because it's not that easy.
Yeah.
If you didn't have training and you weren't working towards a fight, the odds are you're not going to go to the gym.
Yeah,
Like
correct.
it gives you that push.
Yeah, it's cool. Like there's all different types of people at our gym, where people that just want to do it for fitness, people that just want to do it as learning, self-defense. There's children, we've got kids from the age of 5 all the way up to people in their 50s, 60s, training it to be healthy, be better. So anyone can do it, any age, any gender, whatever. It's
well, that's what I really liked
really
when
cool.
I spoke to Courtney about it all, and I went up to her gym and have a look, and it's an awesome atmosphere,
it's really cool.
Yeah, and you're right. Like there's guys, there's girls, a heap of girls, and older, younger, and just working out and learning a skill, and particularly for females too. Like it's a great thing to learn.
Courtney's doing a really cool thing up there over at NCM. She's obviously built her gym off a very cultured and community vibe gym. So everyone, there's no egos in there. Everyone gets along. Everyone's friends, So from that aspect, it's really cool, because there may be some gyms that you go into and you'd feel a little bit intimidated. There might be a guy that's might have had 50 plus fights and he sort of walks around like he's King Kong. So, I'm not saying that my gym's like that. Our gym is very welcoming as well. Everyone's nice. Everyone's got no ego. We've got boys that have had over 100 fights, and we've got boys that have had no fights. So yeah, I guess just having that culture really, and having that support, and everyone's being positive and everyone's backing you. If there's going to be different levels, some person might never thrown a punch in their life, and some person probably does it for a living. And just not separating the two.
Pretty similar atmosphere, Hem, from like going from football club to a, like your football club, you've got people at all different levels, right?
Yep.
You've got people who have played at a really high level, people that are just, trying it for their first time. Like, do you find like there's pretty similar sort of environments?
I'd say yes and no. I'd say the cultures are a little bit different, but the community side of between footy and boxing is very similar. Obviously, everyone's supportive. Everyone supports each other in both footy and boxing. I assume a lot of other sports are like that as well. But in terms of the culture, I think it's a lot different, bro. Obviously, because at the end of the day, like you're boxing, you're doing it for yourself. You know what I mean? Like it's just you, and obviously you're coaching your team. But when you're in the ring, it's just you and your opponent. Whereas like in a footy environment or a rugby league environment, you've got a mate next to you and a mate next to you on that side. So.
It must be refreshing just to, rely on yourself.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Like
what I'm trying to say is like you don't have to worry about him letting you down or you letting him down. The only person that is going to let you down is yourself. So you're only going to be as good as yourself. The work that you put in is only going to reflect how much you actually put in. It's not going to be what your coach has done or what your sparring partner's done. It's going to be the work that you yourself have done. Whereas in a footy culture, you could probably get away with a couple of those things. Your tackle count might not be as high, or you might not take as much hit ups. You're still part of that winning team, but you may not have done as much individually as a person. So I think there's definitely similarities, but it is a little bit different.
No, that's a good point. Yeah. So general manager role, right? Like what's I don't know how long you've been at that for now. Is it 3 years?
So I've been in the management role, I'd say, going on nearly 2 years. So I'd say about the last 6 months.
So what's changed in your role then, from the ops manager role to the general manager role?
Yeah. So now that I'm in a general role, I have, I'd say, more so leading hand guys that I sort of lean on more now, rather than speaking directly with a lot of the tradies or the apprentices. A lot of the time I'll just have like a select couple boys that I'll just sort of catch up with them and get them to sort of orchestrate or sort of monitor how the rest of the boys are doing, sort of thing, rather than having, a million different guys call me all at once. I sort of just handpick a couple boys that I keep close to me and speak to throughout the day.
Probably nice to have less phone calls, but then also I'd imagine that you miss talking to the guys that you would normally communicate with too, right? I'm
sort of at the stage now where I feel like I'm sort of like getting segregated now.
Yeah.
So I've sort of like, he's one of them, he's a manager now. He's not one of us. Sort of. That's sort of the mentality that I have, or that's sort of the vibe I get.
I relate
from the
to
boys
that,
sometimes.
And you feel it yourself, mate, too, because the higher you go, the less feedback you get.
Correct.
The less recognition you get. And not that you do it because, you want someone to tell you you're doing a good job or anything. But, hey, we all like it. Like, it's nice.
Yeah, of course.
And you know that it is a lot harder than what you were doing when you were getting more recognition and feedback and praise, to now I'm doing like a harder job. And I'm getting people telling me that, I'm getting the vibe that, you're one of them. But it's like, well, hey, I'm still the same guy.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think that was, it wasn't hard, but it was just,
different,
just transitioning into, not having that strong relationship with a lot of the boys anymore. And, I'm not constantly speaking to them throughout the day anymore. Like, we've just got different people in different roles now. So I sort of just have the back seat and I focus on more of the back end sort of stuff now. Whereas, I'm not necessarily communicating with the boys out there
as much. Yeah. Well, what's I suppose a lot more reporting and then understanding of, strategically where you want to go and setting targets and implementing that sort of stuff.
So I guess where I'm at now, like at present is, where's the company going? What are we doing with the company? How are we gonna, what sort of P&L are we sort of driving towards, or what can we do to, build the company to how we want it? And seeing a lot of reports and the marketing and the growth. I mean, we obviously look at all the reporting and see what works and what doesn't.
You like all that sort of analytical sort of stuff, like trying something, seeing how it goes, and
so recently I've started monitoring, analytics and seeing how things affect the business and what works and what doesn't work. So being able to see that from like a manager's perspective and saying, maybe we've spent this much on this particular thing, we should maybe wind that back and focus more directly on this sort of style, or this type of electrical, or there's always different types of electrical that we're willing to try and advertise or market or whatever. And even with the use of AI and stuff coming in now, and that sort of,
how can that streamline things?
Yeah, that industry as well. That whole industry of AI is, it's becoming such a massive part of I guess everyone.
It is,
So adapting to that. And
a little bit of like, when you went from being a tradie and into the ops role, and sort of that, hey, oh shit, I'm a bit out of my comfort zone here.
Yep.
A little bit of that feeling again in the general manager, a little bit less, or
I think going from ops to general was probably easier than it was for me to go from tradie to ops. Just because obviously I was already sort of in that office role, and I sort of knew what sort of stuff was going to get thrown at me from an experience in the operations. Whereas now that I'm in general, it's sort of like not that I'm cruising, but it's like.
It's not a big,
I sort of know what to expect now, you know what I mean? Whereas when I was a tradie and then I went into ops, it was like I wasn't prepared to take 100 phone calls a day, or I wasn't prepared to deal with an upset client, or I wasn't prepared to organise, the schedule and stuff like that.
And you don't get to physically see the example. So say, for instance, you're on the road as a tradie, you don't get to see what the ops manager is doing every day.
Correct, yeah.
Whereas I suppose as an ops manager, you can see what a general manager is doing, and you're interacting with them a little bit more. And, realistically, if you were a tradie and you were seeing what an ops manager's going through, you probably wouldn't take the job, would you?
Yeah. Well, now it's like, well, I look at it and it leads back to, again, like the stress that I see my director get put under sometimes. And now it's like
do you really
experiencing that for myself, is going through the other signs of stress, and sometimes I actually enjoy it. Sometimes I love this.
Yeah, well, it's sort of like there's that challenge aspect, right?
Yeah.
But then, hey, I don't want to necessarily get too far in. Like, do I want to actually do that? But it is a challenge, and you want to back yourself, and you want to keep improving. But do you really want all that? Like, and it's hard to know.
Sometimes there can be scenarios where, like I was saying earlier in the pod, I know when something, is on the back burner, and I know when it's coming. I can, and I'm preparing for it, and mentally I'm like, not paying attention to other things because I know there's that one particular, say, bad review or bad situation that's coming. Whereas now it's like it's almost like I'm feeding off that sort of thing now. It's like
that's cool, eh?
Yeah. Now it's like, I'm expecting this to come in, and this is how I'm going to handle it. And
I'm actually looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to actually dissecting that dilemma of figuring out how we're going to fix this fuck up or this issue, or whereas before I'd be like, oh shit, what am I going to do here? How am I going to call? And
overthinking it.
Just overthinking it. I'm laying in bed staring at the ceiling like, oh, I've got to call bloody Barbara down the road tomorrow. Whereas now it's like, no, I'm ready to go, and you have all the right procedures in place and the correct workflows in place now is like, oh, this is just like reading a child's book. It's just rinse, repeat, you know.
Good
like,
for you. Yeah, that's
know.
awesome. Going from that, like, you know, being really good as a tradesperson and then being recognised and selected because you've done a good job,
Yep.
to then getting in that ops manager role and figuring out pretty quick is like, oh shit, I might be out of my depth here. Like, what got you through that? Like, what got you to the point where you're at now? Like, was that just, oh, okay, I'm stubborn and I'm going to get through this? Or, well, you know, because I'm sure, you know, and reflecting on my sort of time doing the similar sort of thing is like, there's times where you doubt yourself and then you go, oh, do I really want to do this? Or should I? It'd be easier if I just went back and did the trades role. Like, I don't know. What got you through that, mate?
I think having a good support network, I guess, having a good partner that, you know, backs you and supports you and makes you, you know, reassures that you're doing the right thing. I have quite a good relationship with my director, and, you know, I seek him for advice regularly if I feel like something's not right, or if, you know, something we could do is not going the way I think it should, or, you know, what his opinion is on, you know, the way I perform, the way the company performs, you know, how we can improve that as a company and as an individual, and just getting that reassurance, you know, from people that I work alongside. Am I doing a good job? Is there things that you think that I could improve on, or, you know, what's your opinion on how you would do this? And
did you find it hard to sort of open up about how you're feeling, like to your boss, you know, to Riley? Like, was that hard?
There's still some times where, you know, I've had conversations with him and I've said, hey man, like, this is a really uncomfortable conversation for me to have, you know, like, but I just want to get your feedback on this and that. And, you know, I want you to give me honest feedback on how we can improve this. I know I'm struggling in this avenue. You know, I can be stubborn sometimes and I just won't seek the help. And then I get to the point where it's like, well, I have no other choice. I need that. Yeah, I need that advice. I need that professional opinion, you know, when I've first been in those sort of scenarios. So,
and it's not a reflection of him by any means. And it happens a lot. Whereas we won't bring things up because, hey, they've chosen me. They believe in me.
Yep.
I don't want to let them down and tell them about things that I know they're busy already and got a lot of stress. I don't want to add more to their plate. I don't want, you know, them to know that I'm doubting myself because they believe in me. You know, like, there's so much that goes into that, right?
Yeah, it's a lot, man. And there's probably a lot of stuff that I haven't even mentioned today that I don't even realize, you know, that I do on a daily basis. But I think, you know, as long as, pretty much the way I see it is as long as the company is making money and the clients are happy and the boys that work for us are happy, then I'm doing somewhat of a good job. That's the foundation of what I believe. So
and that's how you know, right, that you're on the right track.
Correct.
Like, you just sort of like, obviously you get the hard data about how the business is performing.
Correct.
And, you know, I suppose that you get, depending upon how many calls you get and how you resolve those calls from a customer point of view, and then the feedback loop from the boys is
well, that's it. You know, like I said, we've got a target that we try to hit. So if we're on that target to make sure that we're making that sort of number and our clients are still happy and we've got good rapport with our clients and all the people that are working for the business are in, you know, a positive mind state, then I believe truly that, you know, I'm doing somewhat of a good job. So to making sure that it stays like that, sometimes one thing may not come to fruition, you know, maybe we might be a little bit under, or maybe the boys are not happy sometimes. So just trying to regulate that to, you know, keep those three basic fundamentals working without it affecting my personal life as well.
That's good. That other dynamic where you're sort of, you know, used to being with other tradespeople and the etiquette that you have with other tradespeople compared to, I suppose, how you were as an ops manager and then finding yourself having to deal with the guys in the trades. Like, I don't know, did you fall in that trap a little bit where you sort of tried to be a bit too matey with them and things like that? Like,
so I think when I first stepped into the ops role, I was probably a little bit too ladsy with the boys. What I mean by that is I was probably a little bit too friendly from the start. Like a lot of them were my mates that I worked alongside. So not being able to separate that friendship sort of style, work ethic, to being more professional or a bit more direct, in terms of how we run the company sort of thing. So, joking around and, making jokes or making fun with some of the boys and being able to separate that, was probably something that I should have done a bit earlier in my role.
Which was that was the relationship that you'd had with people for 8 years or something.
Correct,
Right?
correct. So
9 years,
It was a bit hard because obviously, like I said, I worked alongside a lot of these boys. So being able to sort of branch off from them and, still have that relationship with the boys and, have that respect of that goes both ways with the boys, but also still be able to, have those hard conversations and on if something went wrong or, if something needed to be done, just be able to, switch between the two. And
you found it a little bit harder, did you? Like if you were too ladsy with them to like sort of draw that line and have those conversations or them receive those conversations?
Yeah, I think it was more on a receiver side.
Yeah, okay.
Like I was fine giving out those sort of directions or giving out those sort of advice to the boys, but I think it may have been like a little bit, some of the boys maybe found it difficult to, receive those not orders, but those sort of instructions from, from someone that they worked alongside. So
instead of replying back with a joke or making light of it, them sort of switching. Which is natural too, because that relationship for them has been the same.
And look, like I've got nothing against it, like
you understand it.
Yeah, I understand it. Like we have that sort of relationship, and but then sometimes when you are trying to be serious and you are trying to get a point across, and they're still having that same sort of mentality, that's when I guess you're going to have that little bit of friction when it's like, well, I'm actually being serious here, like, you fucked up or something, on a job. So I need you to go out and rectify it, or we need to rebuild that rapport with the client, So yeah, obviously having that, having those conversations with the boys was sometimes more difficult with the boys that I was close with than it was with the boys that I'm not as close with.
Just because of that history and that balance too, because you're not necessarily, you still want to have a good relationship with them, and you don't want to forget about the time that you've had with them.
Yeah.
But that sort of distance, but it's just different, right?
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. No, it's mate, a lot of change. Like you think about that last 2 years for you, like that's massive, and to be able to get through it and then to be in a position where you're at now, that's so cool.
It's awesome, bro. I'm really enjoying it. I'm probably quite content with where I'm at in life at the moment.
Good.
I'm not really chasing anything more or anything less. I'm pretty stationary at the moment. So it's been a wild ride for the last 10, 12 years, but
like I said a couple of times, mate, I was really psyched to have you on to talk about this, and I really appreciate you being super honest with it, because that change from being just responsible for yourself and maybe an offsider to then running an operation is massive. And lots of people get thrown in the deep end like you were as such, because it is such a change.
It is. I wouldn't want like that. I hope this podcast takes gets to the right ears and people can hear, and that, if they're feeling a little bit intimidated about taking that next step, is just back yourself, have that confidence in yourself. If you're good at what you do, then just having that confidence and backing yourself. That's probably the biggest thing for me. Was I was just confident in what I did. I know my industry, I know my electrical, and just being confident that I can do it,
Keep going forward. That's cool. And Saris, obviously we'll probably put some links in the show notes and so forth, because my experience with Saris has been great, mate.
Awesome to hear.
Like I said, we had a massive issue here, and we were looking at having no power for a week. So and you guys were able to sort it out that day. So I think that whole estimating role, like we had someone out within an hour, and then you were able to work your magic and get some people out that afternoon, and we had some power on by that night. So, and it wasn't a small job. There's a little bit going on. So I really appreciate that, and it's a fantastic sort of experience with your team. It was really good. They were great. So
Yeah, that's awesome to hear.
awesome, mate. Well, yeah, thank you. Appreciate your
Awesome,
time.
brilliant.
You know, giving up
Thank
your
you very much,
Sunday.
mate.
No, my pleasure. And congrats on the last sort of, particularly the last few years, mate, with the family and your rise through the ranks and what you've had to deal with and get through. So yeah, credit to you, mate.
Thank you
And
very much, Green.
yeah,
Appreciate it.
good luck with the cutting some more weight and getting down into the second fight, mate.
Yeah.
See
how
how
we
you go.
go, eh?
Exciting time. So
Yeah, I'll have to let you know.
for sure. I'd be keen to see, mate. So,
Awesome.
appreciate you, mate.
Cheers, Greenie.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you follow or subscribe. And if you know someone else who would enjoy it, send it their way. We really appreciate the support.